Oi, oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you, and this is Doodle Review, the channel that reviews albums from across the genre spectrum of music, but with a foundation in rock and guitar-based music. We pretty much review something in the world of rock every other day, so if that's your vibe, subscribe. You'll almost certainly hear me talk about a band you like in an upcoming video, and hopefully get turned on to something new as well. Today, we're talking about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard on their second album of 2023 and their 25th overall. Australian psychedelic experimental rock pioneers King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are dipping back into the world of synth driven rock and dream pop that they touched on with their 2021 album Butterfly 3000. However, this time they're taking that sound and expanding it to the region that sits between synth pop, krautrock and house or even techno. 2021's Butterfly 3000, King Gizzard's 18th album at the time, which is mad, isn't it? A little over 2 years later, and we're now talking about their 25th album. That's 7 records in a little 2-year gap. Anyway, that record, which was a very summery synth pop album, was recorded in quite unusual circumstances for the band. With the pandemic and lockdowns in full force at the time, the band were forced to write and record completely separately, a practice that, according to the group's leader Stu McKenzie, has made it incredibly difficult to try and reproduce the Butterfly songs in a live setting. And it was actually during those arduous rehearsals trying to get the songs to work that the seeds were sown for the Silver Chord. Feeling like they hadn't been able to do Butterfly justice gave them the kind of impetus to revisit a more electronic, analog, synth-driven style. When drummer Michael Kavanagh pulled the trigger on a purchase of a Simmons electronic drum kit, a kit that produces an iconic synth rock sound utilised by mega 80s groups like Spandau Ballet and Duran Duran, but probably more importantly to the Gizzard gang, it was also used heavily by pioneers like Giorgio Moroder and Vangelis. When that kit arrived, it fanned that initial spark of an idea to revisit the world of electronics into a full flame, and thus we get the Silver Chord. With the band now able to create via their preferred method, which is all together as one in a single room hashing it out, and with that vision to both revisit Butterfly 3000 and being newly inspired with new instruments, the Silver Chord is long and expansive. Long arrangements aren't unusual for the band, whether they're exploring metal, prog or electronic styles. The group aren't shy about running long, but in this case none of the 7 tracks go below 10 minutes and one goes as long as 20. This leads to one of the most interesting aspects to the project. The band have actually opted to release 2 versions of the record, a standard and an extended edition. One version features the songs edited down to a digestible 2 to 4 minute piece, while the extended version features the full uncut tracks. For context as to how drastic the edits are to this project, the extended version of opening track Thea runs 21 minutes, while the whole standard version of the record, is just 7 minutes longer at 28 minutes. Of course, the full hour-long version of the Silver Chord is the band's originally fully realised vision, with the shortened version being a subsequent edit to that. So to call the edit the standard, or vice versa, the longer edition the extended, is a little bit of a misnomer. This strategy is actually something I'm surprised more bands don't follow. I have long been calling for Metallica to do this because I honestly think each of their last 3 albums houses a banging version inside it if they didn't extend every song way beyond its necessary endpoint. If they did this, the great businessmen that they are, they would be able to get a director's cut or extended mix to their rabid fan base while actually delivering an all-killer, no-filler record for the first time since the Black Album. Anyway, I digress. Being a fan of brevity, especially with a huge list of to-listen-to albums, I opted to listen to the abridged version of the Silver Chord initially. However, I was really surprised to find that it just kind of didn't work for me. I actually noted that the songs feel like they're kind of rushing past without really allowing any of the significant parts to hit. So yes, this is me basically eating my hat a little. Anyone that's watched more than a couple of reviews of mine will probably have heard me call for tighter editing. So to say that I actually prefer the extended mix here is a bit of a shocker. To be honest though, I do feel like the style of music really makes a difference here. If I go back to what I was just saying about Metallica, and I feel it's a somewhat apt comparison because the Giz are both fond of metal and long arrangements within their metal records. If I take a metal track as an example, these songs are typically arranged in a way much more akin to traditional pop songwriting structures. Basically, they have choruses, they have verses, and even if there are tons of other instrumental passages, metal songs are usually circling back to one of those, right? So often to call for a band to tone down the continuously long riffing, if it isn't absolutely mind-blowing, is somewhat valid, because it's potentially diluting the power of that core hook or chorus. But in the case of the Silver Chord, these tracks are already divorced from a traditional verse chorus structure. So in the case of these like prog-like krautrock meets trance arrangements, editing them down is actually kind of diluting their power rather than strengthening them, as in other styles of music. Now, in saying that I prefer the long version of the album, I do have to clarify that just because that's the case doesn't mean I feel like every track is fully justified in its mammoth length. By the time we get to Gilgamesh late on in the track list, I did start to feel that as much of the meandering movements of each song are quite often fun, this is one where it feels like the band are really just reaching to meet the 10-minute track length rather than letting the piece come to a natural conclusion and just move on. This album also features a lot of rapping in a style that I can't see anyone getting away with who kind of isn't King Giz these days. While occasionally endearing, Stu Mackenzie's flow, if it is him on the lead, I welcome someone to correct me on that or not, but his flow kind of comes off a bit like the sort of rap you'd hear back in the 90s when it was treated as a bit of a novelty, or a novelty to kind of like put it in an advert or something, or worse, like the Mighty Boosh. On the positive sides though, I enjoyed all of the lyrical nods to the band's last album, Petro Dragonic Apocalypse. It gives a nice touch of cohesiveness to a band whose every album sounds like it could have been made by a different group. Despite lots and lots of detours into PlayStation 1 Wipeout-esque techno, there are also lots of moments of softness worked in that I think sound great. There are a lot of flutes or flute sounds utilised on the epic opener Thea, and Change features dreamlike vocals that wouldn't have felt out of place on the light-hearted Butterfly 3000. The record finishes with Extinction, which to my mind is possibly the best track here, as it feels like the most natural fusion between the King Gizzard sound and the genres they're pursuing on this album. Overall, I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, and it's always nice to have something completely subvert your expectations. I'd give this a high 6 out of 10. It's really enjoyable. If in the right mood for it, it might just be an album I listen to in occasions that are kind of few and far between. Cheers for sticking around and listening to me chat fraff about the record. Let me know what you think in the comments. I assume if you've made it this far though, you love my review, so don't be coy, don't be cute, stop messing around. Hit the subscribe button. We've got a bunch of album reviews coming your way, Saturday specials, Sunday Jazz Club every week. Subscribe, show some love, share some thoughts, or just howl some abuse in the comments. Check out the links in the description for other reviews you might like, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers mate, bye.